So there is a real deep dive, an extraordinary deep dive into Kyrsten Sinema. The title, "The Metamorphosis of Kyrsten Sinema from Radical Activist to Senate Obstructionist," over at motherjones.com. It's written by Tim Murphy. His Twitter handle, Timothy Murphy, or at Mother Jones, and of course motherjones.com, the website. He's a senior reporter for Mother Jones, and he's on the line with us right now. Tim, welcome to the program. I'm not sure where to begin on this thing, but I suppose we should start at the beginning. Kyrsten Sinema seems to have had, kind of a rough life. My sense of what's going on is that she's trying to be John McCain. She's trying to be that mavericky person on the Democratic side, but it isn't quite working out for her. But what's going on with Kyrsten Sinema?
Yeah, you mentioned John McCain. I think that is a comparison that's made by both a lot of her defenders in Arizona and both a lot of her biggest critics. She started off in politics in Phoenix, in Maricopa County, as sort of the left of the left. She was outside the Democratic Party.
She's Green Party.
She ran for office as a member of the Green Party, and in fact was the state Green Party spokeswoman, and then later ran again as an independent before finally joining and winning as a Democrat on her third try for local office. And she was really, the sort of person you'd see at the front of every protest with a bullhorn and famously, a pink tutu to get attention, and managed over the course of, 17, 18, 19 years to become exactly the sort of person she once was out in the streets protesting. She literally once led a caravan to protest Joe Lieberman, calling him pathetic, a traitor to Democrats.
Because he was blocking Obamacare and the public option.
Well, this was actually back in the Iraq War days when she was a really vocal anti-war activist. But flash forward to today, and now Joe Lieberman is ex-senator coming to her defense as she sort of fills the Joe Lieberman role in Washington as that last Democratic vote and sort of the moderate who's dabbling in obstruction.
We caught this audio that Lee Fong over at The Intercept released last week of Joe Manchin meeting with the No Labels people, a so-called centrist group that's mostly funded by hedge fund billionaires, begging with them to help him get the January 6th commission so that he could have a stronger case to not blow up the filibuster. And apparently Kyrsten Sinema has fallen into their web. Is that about, she just wants the money? I mean, that's the main thing that No Labels has to offer politicians, is it not?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a classic Washington story there of people who sort of, as they move up the ladder and get exposed to more and more, meetings with the business community and that kind of thing, start to moderate their message and embrace, sort of corporate kind of talking points. But that can't, really fully explain the metamorphosis. There's also lots of senators who you could put in that track who also support getting rid of the filibuster. So her story is very unique, nonetheless, in the way that it's sort of a reaction to how her career started, the frustrations that she experienced as a very active progressive in Arizona in the 2000s, which is just a very bad time to be not a Republican in Arizona politics, really kind of forged like a new identity for her and taught and seemed to have taught her, convinced her that there was a different way forward, that, you had to sort of practice this idea of radical acceptance of the opposition and just, moderate your tone and just relentlessly try and work across the aisle to prevent the worst possible outcome and secure some kind of incrementally decent, good outcomes. So she reinvented herself in Phoenix as a legislator and sort of has become that kind of person in Washington increasingly.
So I retweeted just maybe an hour or so ago a reporter with some video saying happening now is massive protest at Kyrsten Sinema's office in Phoenix, I believe it is. And yesterday there was a protest at her office protesting her obstruction, you know, her throwing in with the Republicans on the filibuster, and 10 people were arrested. You know, today these protests are happening. What's well, let me frame this question with an assertion and a question. I've been saying for some time now on this program that I think the closest politician to Kyrsten Sinema in terms of motivation and career arc, as it were, is not John McCain. It's actually Roseanne Barr, who went from being a Green Party candidate to being to the left of the Green Party and then went to becoming a Trumpy. And basically, it was because she just wanted to be the center of attention. And whatever the thing du jour was that would make her the center of attention, that's where Roseanne Barr was. And it certainly appears to me like that's who Kyrsten Sinema is. Number one, would you rebut that, or would you disagree with that? And number two, if that's the case, how do you reason with her?
I would say yes and no. She absolutely wants to be the decision maker. She wants that, you know, the choice to sort of be in her hands and be able to make the call. In fact, she's sort of explicit, you know, when she's pressured. And these activists yesterday were hardly the first time that she's been, you know, protested in her home state. You know, when she's pressured on changing her mind on the filibuster, on how she'll vote on, for instance, the $15 wage, she said, like, you're not going to change my mind. You know, don't waste your time, which is not something that senators say all the time. So she wants, you know, the football in her hands, but at the same time, she's extremely media shy. She wants to have the power, but she doesn't really want to be the center of attention. You know, she's not like a media hog.
Unlike Roseanne Barr.
For sure. You know, she's not going to have her own TV show, which is ironic because when she got her start, I mean, she did have a radio show on Air America. She was like a very active, you know, participant on the progressive like speaking circuit, you know, speaking at Netroots and stuff like that. But so she's definitely retreated more into kind of quiet corners of Washington, D.C., and that's where she's more comfortable now. She rarely gives interviews to anyone outside of a national outlet, outside of a state outlet, which is why it was so rare for her to kind of break her silence like she did this week when she explained, you know, her rationale for keeping the filibuster in the Washington Post.
Right. Yeah, and that was that could have been written by, frankly, by Mitch McConnell. I mean, you know, it's probably the no labels people. So back to my question. We're talking with Tim Murphy, who is the senior reporter at Mother Jones, and has done this extraordinary deep dive into the life and story of Kyrsten Sinema, the senator from Arizona, who seems to be one of the major obstacles to getting voting rights in the United States via the filibuster. So back to my question, Tim, how best should the people who are listening or watching right now in Arizona, her constituents, or people, you know, in other parts of the country, the whole, you know, the other 49 states who are going to be impacted by the decisions that she's making, how best can they, for lack of a better word, lobby her or influence her?
Well, you know, it's not entirely clear how much influence that will have on her, except that she is, of course, you know, interested in her own political well-being. And so for somebody who's taken, you know, such caution throughout her, like, more advanced political career as a member of Congress and as a senator, to sort of toe that right line where she's, like, sort of where she thinks the median voter is. So, you know, I think there is some optimism among even some of her critics that if she can sort of be shown that, like, she's out of step with, like, that median voter in Arizona, that she's pragmatic enough to adjust. You know, she's got, like, this voter in mind that, you know, this sort of white woman from Maricopa County that she's trying to sort of curtail, you know, tailor her message to. Right. And she's long believed that, you know, she's very good at that and hitting those sweet spots. But it's possible, you know, always that she'd decide that she's wrong. One of the things I thought was really interesting about the protest yesterday and the protests we've seen in the past on Sinema is that she comes out of that tradition, but there's just been such a divergence between organizers and activists on the left in Arizona and Sinema. But it's not clear that her kind of theory of change is necessarily correct when you look at the history of the state. You know, the
Right.
people who have really driven these electoral successes in Arizona, you know, whether it's the defeat of Joe Arpaio or whether it's her election or Mark Kelly's, have been the people who have been out in the streets this whole time. You know, Latino immigration activists and progressive activists, you know, the kinds of people that Sinema started off with and has now diverged from.
Right.
They might still be right in the end in their theory of campaign.
Yeah. We're talking to Tim Murphy. Tim, we're going to hit a break here in just a second, but you know, Joe Manchin has, it seems to me like right in front of our eyes, he's creating an escape hatch for himself, which is, I tried, I worked so hard with these Republicans, and finally, at the end of the day, they just wouldn't go along with me, and so to hell with it, I'm going to vote to blow up the filibuster, or modify it or something, you know, get around it. I mean, I can kind of see that coming, although I have no absolute confidence that's what's going to happen, but I can kind of see that coming. I'm not seeing Kyrsten Sinema developing a similar narrative. Is there a way out for her?
You know, there always is. Her career is defined by sort of unending reinvention and sort of constantly, you know, this idea of like self-improvement and learning from her mistakes. So there always is a possibility with her she'll become Sinema 5.0.
How do we encourage her in that? I guess it's just a matter of, you know, the protests, right? And things like that, continuing.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure sort of what direction activists will go next, but certainly they think that at least they have the party behind them.
So as they say, watch this space. And read the article, the Metamorphosis of Kyrsten Sinema over at motherjones.com by Tim Murphy. Tim, thanks a lot for dropping by. Great talking with you.
Thank you.
Yep. Fascinating. What do we do with this, right? We'll be right back.